But 6 letters, one word there, and it says exam. Some of them I might get up to. I was like, I think the question.
All right, let's get started.
That's
Yeah, have any further requests?
I had praise. The equipment that we went to last week showed that our baby is very healthy and a week ahead. So it's very exciting.
Can I call you Joseph for the rest of the class?
Sure.
Your technicolor.
Multicolored, yeah.
My brain was like, that's not where you could come.
We do need to, I want to pray for Keith. He is currently in the hospital with some issues with his heart. So he asked last night, he emailed me to pray specifically for him to run some tests today. So we want to pray for him. I don't think it's like severe, but there is some issues enough to hospitalize him. So pray for he and his wife as they kind of try to figure out what's going on. Okay. Anybody else? Can you come up here and do this for me while I pray? If you don't, it's the seminary library login. Thank you. I don't know. It's red beans and rice hashtag 3939 hashtag chicken fingers on Friday. I got it Thursday. I don't know. It's still there. All right, let's pray. Heavenly Father, we are thankful for just a healthy baby, Caleb and his wife. Pray for that child to continue to be healthy and grow, and for the child's arrival to be one of great joy. Pray for Caleb's 2 boys. Just seeing how much fun they are, just walking around campus and seeing them. I can only imagine how excited it would be to have a little sibling. Lord, we do want to take a moment to pray for Keith. You know what's going on with his heart. Pray for the cardiologist and the hospitalist to be able to give him direction and what's best to help him. Pray, Heavenly Father, for a speedy recovery through the tests and whatever medications that he needs to be on. Lord, I pray for our students as they have their first assignment due this Sunday at 11:59. Pray that they begin working on that now. If not, they do so quickly. Also, I pray that you would calm their nerves, their nervousness over that assignment. In your name we pray. Amen. Did you have that memorized?
No, I went to the library resources on the dashboard.
That's why we had you in the classroom. All right. So we're going to do a little bit differently this morning. This afternoon, we're going to spend the first 2 minutes on the assignment due Sunday. Since almost all of you, I think Alex may be the exception, who's done one of these before, we'll walk through it so you know what to expect so you can do well. So I apologize that you lose some lecture time, but your grade will benefit from it. Okay. In Canvas, you should be able to see, so we kind of are aware of where we are. We are on pace, on schedule, which is rare for these. So we have some space here. So we have today and then next class period to do. So I'm not really a rush. We'll talk about the Genesis flood for a few minutes after this section. We'll go over some of Niehause's work. This is really, really helpful. I think if you read it, it's really helpful, particularly from a biblical theology perspective. Next class period, we'll talk about, I don't know how to say Villa's work. I don't even know who that is. I just know he wrote on the Haggadah. And then Ellen Davis is a very famous scholar who's retired before we read her stuff. Then next week, I will be here Tuesday. We would not have class Tuesday, actually. That's Fat Tuesday. That's just an omission of my mistake. So your assigned reading for that day is going to be bumped down also was Joseph, a type of Daniel. That day, Micah Barksdale will be teaching here for us because I will be doing a winter Bible study in North Louisiana on the book of Exodus. And so Micah actually is quite well versed in that reading religion of patriarchs because we did that in our seminar together.
And then the Joseph Daniel one is really easy to read, and so he'll handle that whole lecture for me. Whatever doesn't get covered, I can come back to. Feel free to ask. I will ask you this. If you have hard questions about the religion of the patriarchs article, save those for me. You're welcome to ask Micah, but don't chase a rabbit with Micah. He's filling in for me as a service. It's a complex web, and I feel confident he can answer them. But also, I don't think it's fair to ask, fill in hard questions like that when he doesn't know what you may ask. Logan, I know it's just, I'm just messing with you, bro. I'm not messing with you. All right, so real quickly, let's look at this overview of the critical introduction. Each student will write one critical introduction. You should feel happy. It's one. It used to be two. I thought I'd just be kind to y'all. On your selected book of the Pentateuch, which one are you doing? So don't do Deuteronomy. He checked all the books out. He checked every
one. Checked them all out. He checked them all. I'm taking them back to He's checking them back. Your assignment because you took all the books.
Stop talking. We're all registered, all on-campus students do not do Deuteronomy. He checked them all out. Every one of them. Okay. After I told you all, don't be that guy. So now I get to change it. Don't be Logan.
Don't take all the books.
All right, the purpose of this is to provide a thorough yet thoughtfully relevant introduction to each book or to the book. It should include historical background material, context, hermeneutics, authorship views. I'm not really concerned about that. I really want, like if you were to choose Deuteronomy, they'll say it's typically Josanic or Hezekiah's reign. However, here are some scholars who argue for Mosaic, Dan Block, stuff like that. You would put those. You do Exodus, it's just a bunch of J and E and P, and that gets pretty monotonous after a while. You can simply then say, here how other scholars have argued for Mosaic or Mosaica. So that's a really small section. I think you should try your best for issues related to date. So if you're dealing with Exodus, for example, you have to deal with when was the Exodus. There's a lot of Old Testament surveys that have charts in there that kind of track that out for you, 1446, 1260. For me, I think more importantly are major themes and theologies, and then micro macro structures. This is not a long document. Please don't turn in a whole page of a micro macro structure from a commentary. Does everybody understand? You can simply do like Exodus is broken into 3 sections. Just do those 3. Deuteronomy is broken into 3 sections. Just do those 3. Don't get all elaborate on that. And then I would like to see a little overview of the major figures, like who is Aaron, like a section on who is Aaron in Exodus, who is Moses in that. If you do Genesis, you've got a lot of characters to choose from. You have Adam, you have Noah, Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, Joseph. So you have to have a paragraph for each of them. And so that's really important. And then any key events that may have happened during those things. This is a smaller paper. I usually make them about 6 to 8 pages, single spaced. So I guess I'm getting easier as I get closer to 50. But I've showed you, I've got some examples for you to look at. So when you go back to modules, I have uploaded a sample critical introduction from a former student. It is on Amos. If you recall, we looked at this briefly. So it says John Seminary because I changed their name. It has title. You can do it this way. You can actually just do the way it looks, where you just tab it to the left or have it on the left and you have an outline form. I prefer the outline form for teaching purposes. So I have Roman number 1, authorship or title, and then I have it underneath there. Now I'm going to show you an example of one I wrote, and it's not this what I'm describing, but now that I'm doing them now, they're all outline form with bold, so I know where to go for each section to look at. But that's not hard. You just move this down over here. One of the ways you could divide it up, you can have, if there are different theories here, those are A, B, and C. Does everybody see that? So they're easy to follow. Setting the same way. And so this kind of shows you, I think this was an excellent, so I'm using this as an example of a critical introduction on Amos. And so you can see that their structure was quite short, but then it explains the structure, which is helpful. And then history of interpretation, which is a key theme, right? How do people interpret this text? Obviously, you're going to get into some of that with Deuteronomy has some very unique ways of interpreting that. So does Genesis. So this is a helpful model. Okay. So, but I also uploaded mine, not because it's, awesome, because I already found errors in it. And also know this was a PhD level one, but I uploaded this one for a reason, because when we look at it, you'll notice as we get to, I did critical citations. So what ends up happening is there are going to be people who say the same thing. And so you should have those where you will have a compound footnote. Does everybody know what a compound footnote is? I know several of you have had me for other classes. So let's say you're looking at 5 sources and they all say the same thing. You actually put all 5 of them in the footnote, one footnote. You can cite one person. So Gerhard von Rad makes this statement. 4 other people have said the same thing. You simply say semicolon after the entry, CF for confer, and then you write the other 4. So everybody understands? So it's telling me you are now doing level 5 of Bloom's taxonomy. You are synthesizing information that John and Taylor and Miss Sharon are all saying the same thing. And you're able to connect those dots. Now, in the event that John nuances one small piece, and it's important because he's famous, you then add, however, John has argued this, which is closely similar, but also different. Now, let me ask you a question. How does one find good resources?
Commentaries.com. You take Logan to the library and ask him.
Okay.
Jump wood first.
All right. So the first thing you want to do, Taylor, you could correct me. You're a doctoral student. You're doing research. Is that, I can't do that?
I'm never gonna correct you.
You rolled your eyes.
You're way advanced.
So for example, how I find stuff for y'all to read, how I find stuff for PhD students to read. There's a brand new commentary on Exodus that's really good. It's like 3 years old. I bought it and I went to his bibliography and I began working through his bibliography to see what was most important. As I read his commentary, if he's specifically mentioning human beings by name and interacting with their arguments. So you take a relatively new, well-known book or well-researched book on Exodus, Genesis, whatever, and you look at their bibliography. Words like seminal. When someone says, Jacob Milgram's view on the sacrificial system is a seminal work, that means your eyes better lay hold of it. Everybody understand? So you look for those keywords and then you go to the library and you find that work and then you go and read it. Never cite what John Hartley is describing what Jacob Milgram said. Never. Now I'm telling you, as one who used to do that, never. It's lazy. Number 2, you're trusting Taylor to tell you what someone else said instead of just going and reading with your own 2 eyeballs. And look, if they're citing Milgram and it's 5 pages, just go read the 5 pages. And if it's important, put it in there. Because that is called secondary citing to another source. And if you ever get caught doing that at a master's level or doctoral, at doctoral, it is not good. Now, there is rare occasions that someone publishes with some book that you cannot find for the life of you. And you have to put in your footnote, Taylor Divney citing this work because it doesn't exist. Does I understand? That rarely happens. I've seen it a handful of times, but don't do it. It's lazy. Best place to write your paper is sitting in that library, because as you are researching and building out sources, you see something that's good, you make a note of it, you get to a stopping point, you get up and you go to the rack and you pull the book and come back to it. Now, I'm going to be overly simplistic. The way you do this, you go to the library, do what Logan did. You grab all the books. You don't check them out. You go get all the books. You load up on the books. you come and sit down at the table. Okay, so then you're going to open up a Word document. Okay, it's overly simplistic. You open up a Word document and you're going to put the headings of each of these things on a document. So everybody understand title, historical context, these things. You're going to take the first book, you're going to read that introduction to whatever it is, Old Testament Survey introduction. You cannot write in that. You need to master. It's something you must master to be a master student. You must master having this as a book open on the table with your computer open with word processor. And as you read, if it's something that's important, you start taking notes. In the event that you think it's valuable, you immediately footnoted the full reference, no matter what. You keep reading, you finish that source, you put them in each category that you've already put in bold: title, historical setting, themes, theology, sources, and structure. Everybody understand? Finish that source, you move to the next one. Pick up the next source. You do the exact same thing. You read it, you put it in their slots. Finish that source, you move to the third source. You do that. That takes me about 2 hours to work through about 5 to 10 sources. I don't know if that's ballpark. Probably take y'all 15. But before too long, you start noticing these 4 people say the same thing and you have them under a heading. You then rework that in your own words. Put a footnote, put all 4 of those footnotes together. Never turn them into ibits until the last thing you do before you hit print. Because if not, that's a disaster waiting to happen for plagiarism. That's how I've built my entire dissertation. That's how I've written every article I've ever done, is that I have sections of my paper or book. And as you read and as you move into 100, 200, 300 sources, you have to start synthesizing that way. Okay. No one ever taught me how to do that until I was a doctoral student, which was way too late to learn how to do that. Because what ends up happening, if I'm just really harsh on you, is most undergrads take one source, they summarize that whole source, they then go and get the other 8 required sources and go pull one little section, put one footnote or two, thinking as if I can't see that you have a base. You're doing a supplementary hypothesis view of your paper. Comes full circle. You have one document and you're now putting in appropriate footnotes to make it look like you've done the research. And really what you've done is read one thing and just look for tidbits to insert throughout. That's not research. So we want you to practice that. For the 4-page paper, you have to be very judicious in what you put in there and the time you spent. Okay? Questions? Any questions?
Roundabout, sorry, because I missed the first kind of overview. Roundabout, how many sources do you think you would be necessary to make this what you're looking for?
I think it's in the syllabus. I think it says, no, it's in this other document. So I will tell you, one of the best compliments you will ever receive from any faculty member is for them to say, you've done too much research. I would tell you, none of you can do too much research. Like at some point, Charlie Ray Jr., that's Charlie Ray III's dad, gave me some great advice. This is for Taylor. She's a doctoral student. You actually never stop researching. You just stop because you're never going to read everything because you're always going to find something and you're afraid that you may miss out on a piece. At some point, you just have to tap out and say, I've done enough. I can't keep scouring the web libraries for some very strange source. So this tells you what you should look like. You just download that file and use that, but at the back of it should give you, here are some examples to use. So I will forego requiring Richard Hess. I highly encourage Richard Hess because his whole thing does it. It's historical context, theology, how it's been how it's been interpreted through Jewish eyes, Christian eyes, modern eyes, all those things. Logan checked it out, but
Yeah. It's on EBSCO.
it's on EBSCO. We'll talk about it in a minute. That's very helpful.
He'll probably figure out how to take that.
You'll figure out how to lock it down. You can choose any of these. Just to understand they're not all evangelicals that are on here. So number 1 number 4, number 5, number 6, and number 8 are evangelical. Some of these others are not. You know, okay? I didn't hear what you said.
How do we access this?
It's on,
It's on Moodle.
It's on,
it's off the modules.
Yeah, what is the title of it?
This is critical introduction guide.
Okay.
I've already uploaded the IVP dictionary Pentateuch for each biblical book in the unit module for each one. It's called Exodus, Genesis. They're there. Then you have to go find one other articles from the readings. These are specialized introductions, so they're not all created equal. You need to go. By the way, there's a whole shelf of them. These are not all of them, but these are ones I recommend you use. You don't have to use these. There are others. I don't have Danny Hayes on there because it's newer. You can use Danny Hayes's. The ones that are starred, they're academic. Just leave it at that. And you can read between those lines. And then any commentaries. Okay. You also, we'll talk about commentaries in a moment, but not all commentaries are created equal because each commentary, like a Bible translation, has a purpose behind the commentary. Everybody understand? So it kind of gives you a framework to look for. All right. So what we're going to do now is we're going to talk. We're going to go to my favorite website. I said that tongue in cheek. We're going to go to bestcommentaries.com. So bestcommentaries.com is a real thing. And it has expanded over the years. I've been here. So now they have everything. So I'm going to take the liberty of walking you through each of the 5 books and telling you these are the best commentaries. Okay. And then we may just be here for half the lecture today. All right. Let's go past these 2. Okay. So you get down to the ranking system. Okay. You'll notice that Gordon Wenham, who you read the flood account that about the unity that some of you weren't fans of. Guess what's next week? Gordon Wenham. Okay. They rank his as the best commentary on Genesis. It is pretty darn good. There's also a problem with that commentary. What is the problem with that commentary? Does anybody know what the problem with that commentary is? It's old. It's 1987. For some of us, it's not old, but in academics, it's old. Okay. Victor Hamilton, a great commentary. Actually, it's actually old. Kenneth Matthews, the Knack is excellent, 2 volumes. It is also old. It's so old, Kenneth actually just finished editing it again. And so the second volume updated edition, because it is now 30 years old. A lot has been published, 30 years. And so Kenneth is B&H is about to republish this one. So you're seeing a common problem with these. These are all old. And then you have Bruce Waltke, which is also old. You have John Currid, also old. All 5 of those are evangelical. Every one of them. You can use any of those. Also of that list, at least 3 of them are evolutionists. Just fair warning. When you start reading in Genesis, you start reading, this kind of sounds like Darwinism. It is. It is. It is actually Darwinism. I won't tell you which ones are, but it is. These are not academic per se. James McCowan is also, he's actually Baptist. So that one's also evangelical. This one, Dr. Barnes used in y'all's classroom. It's a good one. He's extremely conservative. He's like conservative. It's also not huge, but not small for the Tyndale series, right? So it's actually almost 500 pages. Do not use this one. It's old. It is the standard. It is not helpful for any of you. Do not use that one. Also, not all introductions are lengthy. So I would say top 5 on this list. I would use McCowan as well. Steinman, you guys that own Steinman, use that one. And then the rest of these are kind of not really helpful. They're not really commentaries, as they say. And then don't use Bill Arnold's down here. I think Bill's great. This Cambridge series, the introductions are about 10 pages long because it's not about the introduction. It's about the commentary. So just know that one, Old Testament Library Series, those introductions are really short. From there, if you scroll down, this is one helpful thing because, you know, I like to look at stuff like this. It gives you forthcoming commentaries to look forward to. I think there's better things to use your money on than buying commentaries, but there are a couple on this list. When they come out, I will purchase. When David Lamb's comes out, that one's going to get purchased immediately. He's an excellent scholar. And when Richard Averbeck's comes out, I will buy that one. It will be in my library.
When's the Jeff Aldrich one coming out?
And mine will never write a commentary. I have noticed I write commentary. And I don't think David Baker will ever write that, but if he does, it'll be good. And then I'll buy William Brown's because I like William Brown, though I disagree with him on quite a bit. He is a good scholar, but Lamb's will be awesome and Averbeck's will be awesome as well. So that's kind of looking ahead, but that doesn't help you now. So now let's move to Exodus. I can tell you, because I just taught PhD seminar on Exodus, there are no good, great commentaries on Exodus. They don't exist. There's no such thing as a great commentary on Exodus. Douglas Stewart's is not terrible. Feel free to use it. He's evangelical. It's a knack. Brever Childs is very old, but it's very famous because of who he is. And so everyone uses Brever Childs. Like everything you ever write on Exodus has to have at least Childs in the bibliography. Does everybody understand? Everyone starts there.
Free source.
Yeah. So it's also heavy documentary hypothesis. Heavy documentary hypothesis. Peter Enns, this is I know I'm being recorded, but I'll say it. This is Peter Enns losing his mind and falling off the cliff of evangelicalism. He is no longer, he calls himself a post-evangelical. That's widely known. So New Pete's work, probably not helpful for you. This is pre-fall from the academy when he was kicked out of evangelicalism. And that work is quite healthy and good. So kind of understand he's kind of changed over the years. And there's reasons for it. Don't always agree with it. William Propp is a Jewish man. This commentary series, Anchor Yale Bible, does not have good introductions. Terence Fretheim is a Lutheran, and he is an open theist. So if that is, what you believe, you can use that. You'll be wrong. This one is awesome. Don't read it. It's not an undergrad. It's not an undergrad commentary. Okay, it's in the library. Don't use it.
You talking about Hoopman?
Cornelius Hoopman. Don't use it.
Can we look at the different feminist ones too?
Sure, you can. Austin, feel free. Victor Hamilton is actually a really good one. I want to encourage you to use Hamilton if you have it. Very conservative. And then T.D. Alexander is probably the best conservative one there is. It's also in the library. All these are here. And then John Durham's is good. Desmond T.D. Alexander's is relatively new.
So even though it's old, you said use Childs.
Childs, I would use Childs for sure. If I were listing these, I would use Stewart, Childs, Enns, Hamilton, Alexander. You'd only have to use two, but you can use as many of these as you want. Does everybody understand? If I were to tell you to go buy one, every one of you need to own T.D. Alexander's. Like that's the one you own. Like if I had to spend money on one commentary, that's the one I buy. All right.
The Christopher Wright one.
Christopher Wright's a great scholar, but Desmond T.D. Alexander is, yeah, he's the man.
Sorry, I completely missed. No.
I'll come back to it later.
No.
I'll watch the flick here. Yeah.
All right. So now we're going to Leviticus. And unfortunately, Leviticus is not much better. You'll notice Gordon Wenham again. He's at the top of the list. It's even older than his Genesis commentary, but it's pretty darn good. In fact, some of the stuff y'all get lectured to in the Old Testament survey come right out of that commentary. Okay. So the top two are awesome, and they are both extremely old, but they are awesome. This is the greatest one there is. It is 2,688 pages. It is 3 volumes. It is the very best. It will never be surpassed, but it is from a Jewish perspective. It is also heavy documentary hypothesis, but from a content exegetical perspective, he is the man. And he, I believe, if I remember correctly, was John Selhammer's doctoral supervisor. Mark Rookers is actually quite good, though it's quite short. And then Jay Schuyler, you'll notice in the syllabus, you're going to familiarize yourself with Jay Schuyler a lot because he is the new leading evangelical conservative voice in Leviticus. And so you're reading like 4 of his pieces over the next few weeks. And so if we have that one, use that one. Okay. If I were to buy only 1 or 2 commentaries, I would buy Schuyler, Wenham, and Hartley. I would also buy Milgram, but I own all those except for Schuyler, who's new. But those would be the ones I would use. There's other ones good on this list, but those are the ones. Okay. All right. Book of Numbers. This is not self-serving for NOBTS. This is what I actually believe. So Dr. Cole's needs to be used. It is outstanding. In fact, there's a book called Old Testament Commentary Reviews published by Trimper Longman, and Dennis's is one of the 3 5-star commentaries. It is outstanding. Use that one. And then have him sign your copy if you buy it. He's running around here these days. There we go again. Gordon Wenham can't get away from this guy. He also is in the top spot. He's not the top spot, by the way. Really, Dennis is one of the best. Milgram's is also outstanding. Timothy Ashley's is outstanding. This one's actually outstanding too, but it doesn't help you try to do. And then Schuyler has a new one as well. And then Michael Morales, who you're also reading a good bit about from later this semester. That would be the one. If I had to buy one, I would buy Morales's because notice it's over 1,000 pages and it's almost brand new. So he and Schuyler are the 2 new evangelical conservative guys writing in biblical law, Leviticus, Numbers, and they're going to be doing so for the next 25 years. Those are the ones we should use. Lord willing, we own those in the library. Okay, questions on those? And just get an RD to sign your commentary if you buy it. Really good commentary. Right, and then the last one is Deuteronomy. I always disagree with their rankings, but I digress. So Peter Craigies and Eugene Merrill's both are super old, and they're the only 2 on this entire list. I mean, Christopher Wright, but that's a little devotional commentary. Those are the only ones that even hold to Mosaic authorship on this entire page. Okay, so Craigies is awesome. It's just old. Like it's 49 years old. To put it in perspective, that book is older than me by a year. And he's been dead a long time, and a lot has been written on Deuteronomy since then, so much so that they've replaced it with Bill's new work. And then Gordon McConville's is excellent, but he dates Deuteronomy to the 10th century, to David. Eugene Merrill's the only one that takes a really hard stance on Mosaic authorship, and Eugene is rewriting this one because he's still alive. And then Bill's is only the first 11 chapters. Jeffrey Teague's is awesome, especially the excurses. If any of you ever used the JPS Torah commentaries, just fair warning, they work backwards. You have to turn the book over backwards like this, and that's the front of the book. And you turn it like a Hebrew Bible. And then at the very back, which will be our front, are excurses on select topic. Teague has some awesome excurses in his. And then of those, the rest of them, blocks is really helpful. No one else. They're all really helpful, but it's not for what you're doing. So Craigie, McConville, Merrill, Teague, if you're bold, block. And then everyone will cite this one, but it's not an undergrad book. Okay, if you want it, shoot me an email. I'll send you a PDF of it. But it's the famous one.
How about Driver?
Yep,
That's old.
it is. And every publication on Deuteronomy cites SR Driver, a good British Baptist man. You're reading like, that's not our kind of Baptist. No, it is not. It's not. All right, so that's a good overview of these commentaries. I know I threw a lot at you. If you have questions, shoot me an email. I'll forward in that regard. This is Yes, Logan?
Is that the driver who like did the lexicon?
There's him and his son. All right, so for those at a distance and for those like me, who I use this weekly because I live 40 minutes away, you need to log into NOBTS, the red beans and rice, yada, yada, whatever the password is, it's in Moodle or Moodle Canvas. You come and you click EBSCO host ebook academic. Everybody understand that? If you haven't used it, I know some of you have, so I'm sorry to hear this again. So you click on that, and it'll open, just open the tables and the details. There we go. All right, so here it is. It is vague, and you have to learn to massage search. It is not perfect. You have to really work at curating a good search. Thankfully for commentaries, they're not hard. So we will do this commentary, and it will pull it up. All right, so Umberto Cassuto is a really famous one, but it's not going to help you for that. William Johnston's is actually quite good, though it wasn't on that list. This is by Smith and Ellis. Anybody know who Smith and Ellis is? Come on, you Baptist history people. John Smith was the first Baptist who baptized himself. He was then convicted of his self-appointed baptism, and then his best friend Ellis, that's how you pronounce his name, rebaptized him. Okay, and that is the maker of the Macon Mercer University Press. All right, so you click on this button, you can then access ebook here, and then you can access the contents. So if I track along, this is free, has nothing to do with this assignment. This is a powerful tool. You can come over here and you can type in here, golden calf. It pulls up every reference in that book. And then you just go to those pages and you read the sections you need for your paper. I worked through 20 something sources in an hour one time because I was looking for one specific thing on Uriah. I pulled up every one of those, typed in Uriah, it pulled up every one of those, and I went through every reference, and I went through like 20 books in about an hour. It was awesome. And then I just took notes and moved on. I was done. So very powerful tool. You cite these just like a book, not a digital book, a real book. Okay. Also really helpful. Let's show this. I come in here and say, I want to download the chapter on the golden calf because that's your potential paper topic for later. You come down here to cover page, you scroll down, and you can actually select the sections you want to download. And so I will go down to this portion through here, and I click it, hit download, and it PDFs it down. Almost 50% of everything that's in Canvas came from this way, where I pull chapters out of books. You can download up to 25% of a book. It will automatically tell you what you can and cannot access. So when you start looking, for example, at specific topics related to your research paper or a commentary or a thing, you can actually download those. You can only do it from the PDF reader. It gives you options of an EPUB or a PDF reader. The EPUB downloads and it doesn't look correct. It's really screwy looking. The PDF download is perfect. Okay, so that's one way to access those, and it is typically quite a few to be used. And so there's no excuse for you. I mean, there's the Hamilton book. There's T.D. Alexander's. 3 of the 5 I've mentioned are right here, and you can do this in an hour and a half from your dorm room, apartment, or you can go that someone turns them in.
This is Exodus, so we'll be good.
Oh, you probably got them too.
Yeah, so I mean, they're all here. So there's all of those ones that I mentioned. They're all available EPUB. Okay. And if you want to, if you're just doing it for the assignment, just come over here to introduction. There it is. And just download the introduction. And the beautiful thing is, see if they'll let me do it. Let's see. it will save it by the name of the source so you can't forget it. So when you're working through this, it's already saved as Doug Stewart Exodus. And then you know this, the Knack commentary. And there, I've already downloaded it. And look, it's perfect what we're looking for. I mean, I could literally pull the resources I need in 10 minutes for Exodus if I was writing this paper right now, just use the EPUB. Does that make sense? Right. Also, when you do this, I want to encourage you to create a folder on your computer and download things that you find interesting. It doesn't matter what the subject matter is, theology, church history, whatever, and then create folders on those topics, and then you start saving them in there. Fair warning, your computer will reach its threshold of iCloud storage. So you'll need to curate through that material. Because unless you're a faculty member, when you graduate one day, you no longer have access to this stuff. So download it now while you can and save it to your computers. Okay? Some of you will be students for the next decade because you're going to get a PhD, but when you leave, you don't have access to this anymore. So start downloading those things.
You did through alumni.
I'm an alumni in that regard. I have full access. And I do it all the time. That's how the world works for me, man. My download folder is full of stuff. Still, I gotta work through it all.
How many computers you got worth of files?
I've got a lot. A lot. I've got a bunch of free books, stuff like that. Yeah, I digress. All right. Any question about this paper? I've thrown a lot at you. I think half the battle. Oh, let me tell you about grading. Okay, so let me hear your perceptions on how people grade. By the way, I grade all papers, by the way. Brett will grade them, but I will, because I want him to learn, but then I will go back and read all of your papers. How do you think I grade your papers?
I think that you kind of saw.
And you're all talking at the same time. Okay, what did you say?
So you look at footnotes first.
Okay, first thing I do is I look at your footnotes. Before I read a single word of your paper, I look at your footnotes to see what sources you used. And so if you're doing Deuteronomy, and I know that he's got McConville, Mont Weinfeld, SR Driver, which I'll be like, what are you doing? Blenkinsop, Ska. I start seeing these names. I know before I've read the first word, that is the bare minimum of a C. Because if you're using the best sources possible, then the content alone will be a C grade. Does everybody understand? And then let's say he can't write to save his life. He's got 4 fragments. He's got split infinitives everywhere. And he's got a couple of run-ons. And he's got comma splices galore. And his formatting of his footnotes looks like my 7-year-old did it. Well, that'll drop his grade down to a B or C. But I'm more concerned about content. I want all that stuff to be right, because there's nothing more irritating than to grade something on Canvas, insert comment. Why did you put the footnote wrong? I've shown you how to do this. Like, I don't want to do that. But if I look at footnotes and I see thorough footnotes, and they're good sources, even if I don't know who it is, but it's in like a T.T. Clark book or a Brill book, or it's a journal article that comes from a tier 1 journal, I know the content's awesome. Second thing I look at is formatting. Are your margins 2 inches around the sides, Carter? You know? Or is your font Courier New size 12 with kerning expanded? Things, yeah, for graphic designer. Do you have page numbers? Do you have tabs proper? Do you have block quotes that are 5 lines or longer to be a block quote? And when I see that, I'm like, well, there's a letter grade because your formatting's all wrong. Before I've read a single thing, I already know where your kind of baseline probably going to be. And I'm not alone in how I grade that. I know a lot of people do that. Also, one of my favorite things to do, I should confess this on camera, for students to turn in papers that are not meeting the page requirement is my favorite thing to grade. Especially when it's an 8-page paper and you turn in 6 pages, it's a letter grade per page short. I love it because it means this is going to be a quick read. You're already starting at a C. I've not read anything more, looking at your footnotes. This is going to be a fun ride. Because if Ben works hard and turns in 8 pages, and all of you work hard, and then Jeff turns in 6 pages, why should you even come close to the same grade? It's not fair. Okay. Final 2 things. Do not use AI. I don't care. Don't use Grammarly. Don't use some kind of grammar help with ChatGPT. Turn it in, we'll flag it. Okay. When you turn in your assignment, if it has 30% turn it in, relax. You're fine. If it's above 30%, be very worried. Okay? Just don't do it. I would rather it be poorly written than to get a 0 for using Grammarly or Turnitin or ChatGPT. Also be cognizant if you're using one of the word processing programs that has sort of grammar fix in it, it can also flag that. Okay? So just be aware of that. There's a threshold and there's a process. So if you get flagged, I'll sit down with you. It'll get moved to Dr. Wilton. Dr. Wilton then moves it to the next step if there's issues there. But the issue is if we've warned you, there's your first warning, right? So just don't do it. Number 2, plagiarism. There's intentional plagiarism. There's accidental plagiarism. Do I understand the difference? And I'm very gracious on accidental plagiarism because I think sometimes we just make mistakes. And so I will work with you. But if it is significant plagiarism, you will receive a 0. You will then be turned into Dr. Wilton and it works its way up. Because this is not a 1,000 level course. This is a 3,000 course. To be very clear, I cannot tell you the last time I had either of those problems, period. But I have to warn us because there has been an uptick nationally using AI and using plagiarism. Okay. Also, AI is really easy to telltale sign when I'm grading it. There's not a footnote in sight, but you keep naming my names. Jacob Milgram argues, like, where's Jacob Milgram's footnote? And you keep reading and it's like perfectly worded. I'm like, it sounds like a computer pulled this one together. So please don't do that. That speech makes me sound mean. Not mean. Your face. Sorry, I'm mean. All right. Thank you for letting me spend 50 minutes doing that.
Thank you, Jim. Thank you for
It
giving.
is a colossal waste of lecture time. It will exponentially make your grades for this class and other classes better. And I also want to invite you, not all at once, if you don't know how to write a paper, set up a meeting with myself and I will show you how I write my papers. Does not mean it's the perfect way. No one should have to wait till they're at Taylor's position in school for someone to sit down with you and show you how to write. Also worth noting, I barely got out of English in high school. I came here as a college, as a seminary master's student where everyone had taken English proficiency exam and I failed it. I had to take remedial undergrad English with Dr. Eddie Campbell. And in this classroom, sitting right about where Logan was sitting with Scott Belmore, as in Andrew's dad, Eddie Campbell wrote on the board, "The boy threw the ball." And he walked over the board, he said, "The is the article, boy is the subject, threw is the verb, ball is the direct object." And I looked at Scott Belmore, sitting right where Logan is, and I said, "We're the 2 dumbest people at this institution." And I meant it. I was embarrassed to sit in that room. But now I've written 1 book, got a 2nd book under contract, things you can learn to do. I am by no means some expert. I know that I was a horrible writer. I had people proofread my stuff in undergrad and say, "Gosh, you're a horrible writer." Because no one took time to show me how to write until Archie. No one should ever write that long and carry the burden of you're stupid. You're not stupid. You've just not been taught how to write well. So let Taylor, let other teachers do it. I get emotional because it fires me up because I talk to too many students who are broken because they receive poor feedback because no one ever showed them how to do research. That's part of our purpose here. It's one thing to give you an assignment. I'm losing valuable time with Abraham, but it will promise you to bless your working on other things because no one ever took time with me. And I want to do that for you. So if you have that desire, feel free to email me. Probably a little late for this week, but for the research paper. I am such a baby. I tear up too easily. It's all your fault. It makes us too kind. All right. Let us jump in. We have 30 minutes. Let's do 30 minutes to talk about my friend Wenham. Some of y'all don't like him. That bothers me. Let's talk about Ford. Let's turn to Genesis 6-9. And you know I'm teasing you. I love our church, but it makes us all better humans.
But
Better humans.
it makes
Teasing about our church makes me cry because all my friends are like always telling these great stories that makes me tear up. Their fault. All right. So Wenham, kind of deceiving, says unity of the flood narrative, and then says the compiler made it unified. That's what he says. So what are your thoughts? First of all, I think he's wrong. Okay, let's clarify that. All right, so he talks about the intended structure. And he argues, why don't you tell me, let's have some people who haven't talked before. Let's have y'all speak up. What of the flood narrative causes him to think that they are two traditions redacted, edited together into a unified story? Versus the duplicate. Actually, he uses the structure against itself. If you recall, he says the structure brings unity, but it also brings two sources being merged together to bring about forced unity. I don't know if you read that part.
Is
Right.
the reference of the Lord's covenant as singular thing?
No, that's the knee house for today. That's the one we're not going to get to today. There's the two of every kind, and then the 7 pair of clean and unclean. Okay, so there's a couple of ways of interpreting it offered by him, but also others. So when you look at chapter 6 and you look and it talks about in verse 19, and every living thing of all flesh, you shall bring 2 of every sort or kind into the ark, keep them alive with you. They shall be male and female of the birds according to their kinds and animals according to their kinds and every creeping thing that grounds, creeping things their kind. 2 of every sort shall come in to you to keep them alive. Also take 2 of every sort of food that is eaten and store it up. It shall serve as food for you and for them. Noah did this. He did all of that God commanded him. Then the Lord said to Noah, go into the ark, you and all of your household, for I have seen that you are righteous before me in this generation. Take with you 7 pairs of all clean animals, and the male and its mate, and the pair of the animals that are not clean, the male and his mate, and 7 pairs of birds. So those 2 different units, there's 2 of every kind. And then one way of reading it is that there's 2 of every kind, and then there's the clean animals, which are separate but still on the ark. Does everybody understand? Or they are viewed as 2 different accounts of the flood narrative. One, like Genesis 1, describes it this way of creation, and the other, Genesis 2, describes creation this way. So really then there's 2 of every 7 pairs of clean animals represents a different literary source. He actually argues that, but it was merged together to form a unified story through that structure he shows. Another option, which is where I lean to, is that 2 of every kind actually is the 7 pair of clean animals and the unclean animal pairs. Does everybody understand what I'm talking about? That we tend to think because we let Bruce Almighty and paintings and all that stuff influence what we think the ark looked like.
Tell me, the painting in the library is not real?
Yeah.
It,
And children.
it's a good painting. I know who did it. It's a good painting. It's a good painting. So is the one in the counseling center. It's awesome. We tend to think that it's a floating Audubon zoo. Like there's every imaginable dog on there. I think it's a dog, a cat. And that after they get off the ark, they then continue to then micro evolve. Okay, everybody knows that's not Darwinism, right? Micro evolution is species specific where they start. That's how we have a labradoodle. Pretty sure not a dog. Pretty sure. So I actually see 6 and 7 functioning as the same. So your options are 2 different accounts, right? That are merged together to form a cohesive unit, which is what Wenham argues. Or you take the 2 different accounts are completely at odds. You cannot make it unified. That's the classic documentary hypothesis approach. Or the way we read Genesis 1 and 2 as they're distinct and yet similar. That this is the same function. Chapter 6 is different. Chapter 7 is different, but it's also the same. 2 of every kind is the numbers listed in chapter 7, 7 pair of clean animals. I think, Ben, after class, you asked this question of me, and if it wasn't you, someone else, may have been you. Also, chapter 7 makes no sense because it's speaking anachronistically of what are clean animals. That doesn't come until chapters 11 through 15 of Leviticus. The designations of clean and unclean don't come until then. And in fact, when you go read the animal listings, what we can and can't eat there, it's not the floating Audubon Zoo. It's pretty limited, if you're familiar. It's quite limited, actually, which probably kind of lines up with this text. I don't really know what to make with the differences. I don't see them as 2 different sources. I see them as being complementary, but distinctly different in their language. Thoughts? I'm not above critique. But I mean, 6:18 through the end of the chapter is distinctly worded differently from chapter 7, verses 1 through 5. Got 7 pair of all clean animals, male and his mate. Why does it deviate from male and his mate, from male and female? A pair of the animals that are not clean, male and his mate, 7 pairs of birds of the year also. Like, why change the language of male, female to male and his mate? Same with the numbers.
Could have been 2 males and a mates.
Moving on.
They say penguins are gay.
Oh,
What?
Lawson, you took something that was tough. What my favorite theologian, Jesus take the wheel. So what are your thoughts? You read Wenham. I've given you the 3 options. What do you think? A sweet lady from church comes to say, Pastor, Sunday school teacher, why does chapter 6:18 to the end of the chapter say this? Chapter 7, 1 through 5 says this. How would you answer?
It's 2 different people, but
That will not land well in church.
I didn't agree with that.
It's not going to land well in church.
I know it makes most sense for your interpretation.
And it makes the best sense of what?
The way you just explained it.
My interpretation that the same account is described differently.
I mean, it's the same thing happened in Genesis.
I think that's how I should read it. I don't really buy Wenham's unity through diversity of sources.
I think he's
The
reaching.
redactor was creative and there are scenes identifying the contradictions, I think is what he says. I don't see that.
I think he's trying to reach too far to support his own presupposition that it's different forces.
I also think when I don't know him personally, so I don't want to come across like I'm throwing shade on him. He is thoroughly evangelical. He is also thoroughly academic. And he's trying to live in both worlds at the same time. And so that's kind of the hybrid that you see. He is identifying a textual dilemma. And he's trying to solve it through the lens of kind of an evangelical approach to this is sacred scripture. He doesn't feel comfortable with the documentary hypothesis approach, but he's able to identify these things do read differently. What do we do with that? And at the bare minimum, we can disagree with him. I disagree with him. But I can appreciate his approach better than these are two sources, they contradict each other, get over it. Like that's how other scholars deal with it. All right.
He says at the end, though, the documentary hypothesis may yet be defended if one is prepared to posit the most ingenious and thorough redactor.
Yeah.
So I mean,
He's not,
why is he so against?
he's not a class. Why is he so against what?
And it seems like he's very against saying that this is one structure not compiled by a redactor. Why is he so against that? Just because, I mean, if the coherency and unity is so clearly there that it would take an ingenious.
Yeah, I think when we really look at the documentary hypothesis, where's the majority of the discussion held? In Genesis. Mainly in Genesis and some in Exodus. And it's really easy to focus on Genesis because Moses isn't born yet. So it's a lot more difficult to say Moses didn't write Exodus to Deuteronomy because he's the main character. It's a lot easier to say, well, he's using sources and those sources at times are different. So that's why he'll argue potentially can be proven. But none of his other works deal with classic documentary hypothesis stuff. But he's also not a classic Moses person either.
So where's the fault?
Or Gordon McConnell does, where he's not going to tell you. Pretty frustrating.
Because this would make him seem like.
If I could say this, that's the one thing I appreciate about feminist scholars and liberal scholars oftentimes. They tell you up front, this is what I'm doing, this is my presupposition, and this is how I'm going to do my argument. There's no questioning of wonder where they stand. Like they tell you. Oftentimes I think some evangelicals struggle with saying that because it does present some prickly issues. So I think he's kind of doing both at the same time. Okay. All right, let's jump into.
Jeff.
Yeah.
Going back to the text real quick. Your argument for why it isn't both and is because it just being coherent is in like the two work together as compared. I don't know how to word this. You gotta give the three propositions, right? One is like both and the end of chapter 6, that's one set of animals that go onto the ark, and then chapter 7 is another set, right?
That's the classic.
That's one. Why do you not suppose that? Just because the other one makes more sense to you, or is there anything against that makes
Not being against the source theory?
not sources, but the idea that it's not both and?
My position is it's both and. Two of every kind is 7 paragraphs.
I'm saying, like, why wouldn't it be?
Two different accounts,
Yeah.
but perfectly the same.
Sure.
I guess it could be that. On the boat, everybody died last time I checked.
Okay.
It did. And you're right.
I don't know if there was like an argument against it. Could you just pick the other end?
Are you're saying that they're two separate accounts, but they're two separate units of animals?
Yes.
They're
Like,
not different sources.
yes.
It's possible. It's possible. I think it's possible. All right. chapter 8, verse 13, it tells us that we're on the boat 1 year and 10 days. It's a long trip. It says in verse 14, in the second month, the 27th day of the 10th month, the earth was dry. And God said to Noah, go forth from the ark, you and your wife and your sons' wives with you. Bring forth with you every living thing that is with you of all flesh, birds, animals, every creeping thing that creeps on the earth that they breed abundantly on the earth. To be fruitful and multiply upon the earth. That'll be a helpful place where I also say clean and unclean animals. Viewing them all as better, they're both the same. So Noah went forth, and his sons and his wife and his sons' wives with him, and every beast, every creeping thing, and every bird, everything that moves upon the earth went forth by families out of the ark, which parallels Genesis chapter 1. And then chapter 2, where they have the different animals. And then verse 20, let's unpack this for a bit. Now, then Noah built an altar to the Lord. He took every clean animal and every clean bird and offered them as burnt offerings on the altar. Okay, first of all, how does one build an altar? Let's go find what kind of stones. Uncut field stones. Okay. What is a burnt offering?
Find out a couple books.
It is an intentional breaching of God's covenant. Why is he offering a burnt offering? What sin has he committed? You can't say it's an offering for the humanity because God kind of took care of that problem. They were the offering.
Do you think,
It's an old time, by the way. Go ahead.
this is just further speculation. Do you think it could be, chapter 8, verses 6, when he sends out all the birds and stuff, do you think that is seen in a negative light? Like he's not trusting the Lord to tell him when to come out of the ark? Instead, he's taken into his own hands to see when the flood waters has decided.
Text doesn't say. Also, fun things. Only priests can offer burnt offerings. And so you have, before there's priests,
Him and his sons are like these guys.
before Jacob has Levi, he becomes the Levites, right? You have people doing sacrifices. And yet Saul will be rejected for doing a burnt offering, and David's burnt offering will be accepted. Solomon's burnt offering will be accepted. It's kind of all over the place. But what we can conclude is before the Levitical system, patriarchs, and I don't mean that term as the patriarchs, meaning the patriarch of the family, had the authority to be headship over sacrifices. Yeah. But it's very vague as to what he's offering for. Yeah.
I was so in verse 21 it says, Lord smelled the pleasing aroma, and then it goes on. He says, I'll never get close to the ground because of man. And I was wondering, like, could it be that although Noah was saved by God, he also was sinful, and then his sons were sinful, and that he also was guilty in a manner that this is part of it?
Okay, let's unpack that. First of all, pleasing odor. The word for burnt offering is the word Allah, comes from the word for to go up. So that's kind of a play on words there. When God says, I will never again curse the ground because of man, what does that sound like? Genesis 3:17. The imagination of man's heart is evil from his youth. Is that age of accountability? You didn't ask Dr. Dave. That's a theologian. That's a theologian. Neither will I ever again destroy every living creature as I've done. While the earth remains, seed time, harvest, cold, heat, summer, winter, day, night shall not cease. So obviously this is recreation. This is what's being communicated here. So you're asking me that maybe at Noah's sin is precluded, the offering is precluded by what his sons are going to do? Is that what you asked?
So for all of it, no blameless, right? But I mean, obviously, that's essentially man. It says here that man's heart is evil from his youth. So God saves him, but could that sin, like,
What was the purpose of sacrificial offerings in the Old Testament?
to
Cover these a deity, not replace one's sin. It's to cover one's sin. Again, just reading Genesis, we don't have that information yet. Forced to anachronistically apply theological systems onto a text that was not inherently there. So it's slowly, kind of what Niehaus' article talks about, that there's one covenant, but God keeps supplementing it, means that, to use a really bad analogy, have y'all ever met someone when it doesn't matter, guy or girl, when they meet someone they like, they overshare immediately? And they play 52 card pickup, like they just throw everything they know, like everything about them, they just throw at the person, and it's just like, yeah, we're gonna move on. Relationship should be like holding a card, a 52 deck card, where you reveal a little bit about who you are slowly, because there are things in our past that we struggle with or that I'm afraid of. Like that like I just don't lead in on the first time I meet my wife and tell her about being abused, or that I have self-esteem issues, or that my parents had marital problems for 5 years and it impacted how I function as an adult. You know, you don't just throw that at them. That's like cards 48, 49, 50, 51, and 52. And that doesn't happen in possibly a couple of years and you've been married. Because those are deep things you've hidden from everyone. Take that analogy, as real as it is, that is actually probably the only good dating advice I could ever give. Do not play 52 card pickup, sharing everything about yourself first week. No, it does the same thing. It does not throw all 52 cards at us and expect us to just consume his divineness, his attributes, his character. He slowly is revealing it to us. Now it's more than one card at a time. He starts with a chunk, but he's slowly going to reveal that to us. And I think we're seeing that in these texts. It's God revealing more of his character, more of his holiness, more of his expectations. Because as your article points out, Paul talks about before there was the law, there was common grace. He also has to be a brother. He has to be a brethren, using words like common grace.
So would it be worth anything to kind of also remember, like Genesis 4 can enable both offer sacrifices, and it's not the first time that even an animal is sacrificed, because Cain does that. And would that have just kind of been?
Yeah, because I mean, Deuteronomy is going to we're going to get there one day. Deuteronomy makes caveats. Like if you're wealthy, you can offer a lamb, but if you're not wealthy, you can offer a bird. If you're not wealthy, you can offer grain. If you're even poorer than that, you can offer whatever to God and keep it and eat it, because you're so poor you can't even afford the sacrifice. Because to give that sacrifice to me, take food from both and his family. So it's a complicated section. All right, we got to move on. I got 5 minutes. And chapter 9, verse 1. And so God blessed Noah and his sons, and he said to them, be fruitful and multiply and fill the earth. This is the recreation portion. Joseph Blinkenstock has written on that a good bit. The fear of you and the dread of you shall be upon every beast of the earth, kind of talking about the dominion piece there in Genesis chapter 1. Upon every bird, yada, yada. Verse 4, only you shall not eat the flesh while it's life. So that's the only good thing come out of the flaw and the flood is we get to eat real meat. Okay. Without blood in it. If you eat it without blood in it, like red meat, you're a savage. Like it needs to have blood in it. Or whatever. The rationale is it's the lifeblood. So if you ever go to Israel, it's all well done meat. Right? Verse 7, and you be fruitful, multiply, bringing forth abundantly on the earth and multiply it. And God said to Noah and to his sons with him, behold, I establish my covenant. That's the first use of brief there. With you and your descendants after you, and with every living creature that is with you. So here the covenant's not just with humanity, but it's all of creation. And so we will see in other prophetic books, man's sin, God judges humanity. It impacts animals. Okay. I will establish that covenant with you, and never shall again shall all flesh be cut off from the waters of the flood. And then you get the rainbows with the sign of the covenant. All right, so that runs through verse 7. All right. Any questions about that?
Why is the blood considered its life?
Oh, it's that's how they view, like if you kill an animal, the blood goes everywhere, so that it then dies. They view it as the life-giving aspect. I think it's your limited worldview of how life really functions.
I mean, if we didn't have blood, we'd be dead. We would be blood.
You can also have your blood cycled out of you, dialysis, and cleaned and pumped back in. But
My belief of like when blood is shed, I mean, it talks about before blood is shed, cries out, or Abel's blood cries out.
it'll cry out. Yep. So yeah, and then we get verse 18 and following. I'm not going to go through the exegetical options there, but it is worth pointing out a couple of things. Number one, the sons of Noah who went forth from the ark are Shem, Ham, and Japheth. And then it tells us before anything else, Ham was the father of Canaan. Okay? These three were the sons of Noah. From these, all the earth were peopled. Noah was a tiller of the soil, planted a garden or vineyard, got drunk with this wine, and lay uncovered in his tent. Ham saw it. It tells you again, he's the father of Canaan, which is super weird. Saw his nakedness of his father, told his two brothers outside, and then Shem, Ham, and Japheth took the garment, laid it over their father, over their shoulders, and walked backwards and covered the nakedness of their father. Their faces were turned away, and they did not see the father's nakedness. When Noah woke from this wine and he knew, whatever that means, it's tied to those three different theories, what his youngest son had done to him. He said, cursed be Canaan. Why is Canaan cursed? Why not Ham? Also, when did Canaan get born in this narrative? Because it was just Shem, Ham, Japheth on the boat with Noah and his wife.
And it also say, and your sons and their wives in 6.
Why is Canaan cursed? There's a theological reason. Because the Ammonites and the Moabites are going to be cursed as well. Lot's descendants. So you have this cursing of people, not Israel's chosen people. You have the Edomites, descendants of Esau. So there are all these people, not Jacob's line through Isaac, Abraham, that every one of them, it's irrelevant of the theories concerning how these people came to be. They're all cursed. Every one of them. It's also worth noting, and then we will call it a day, because of the curse of Canaan, Christians justified slavery in America. Because the descendants of Ham are Africans. And it's been proven historically. In fact, there's a brand new book that won an award written on the curse of Canaan it has encouraged the plight and mistreatment and maltreatment of blacks globally by Christians. I'm not saying now, I'm talking about in that period of time. There's other aspects to this where when you follow the family tree, especially chapter 10, Canaan doesn't fit geographically in that list of groups, which doesn't make a whole lot of sense, but may be more tied to the cursing of him in general. All right, from there, next class period, we'll do Abraham. Be ready for Niehouse's article. No class next Tuesday, Fat Tuesday. I think all of you are not new, so you know it's not down, so don't try to do anything.
So what happened in the 10?
Hey, the answer's pretty easy. Noah got drunk and lay uncovered.
Word of the day.
Word of the day.
Critical introduction, 3 words. Two words.
Now, what if we read Leviticus 19 back?
Run the sound.
18, sure, yep.
How are they hoping they do?
Oh, we know about it.
But, yeah.
That says, we covered